Fuga, Melodies of Steel is CyberConnect's newest release on the Nintendo Switch. This turn-based strategic RPG is also part of the Little Till series, which is a franchise that's seen several entries released over the years, and some even on mobile. Your story begins after the Burman army begins to invade your hometown, and alongside several other children, you make a daring escape with the help of a gigantic tank named Tamaris. It's only then that the true purpose of rescuing your parents and trying to get each of the children's family back together again begins. I must admit that there's moments in the story that don't quite resonate with me, and it's probably one of the weakest points of the experience. Thankfully, it's a game that's not shy about letting you be on the driver's seat both literally and metaphorically, as the choices you make ultimately decide the outcome, so it's always best to be mindful of the consequences before your actions. Chapters, and by extension missions, are segmented off in battles and intermissions. This is the first step to having the freedom to choose which routes to take, be it the safe one or a more daring one with better rewards. Story arcs can also come in this flavor, where you may learn things about a certain character or two based on the decisions that you made beforehand. Because this is a resource management game at its JRPG core, there's plenty of things to micromanage, starting with the almost moving city that you're controlling, on top of upgrading it during intermissions, which is your time away from combat. You have the chance to get to know the always expanding group of kids that you get to control. It's in the intermissions where the game can seem at its most daunting. Thankfully, it knows that and it throws a few bones your way. First, each of the characters have requests that you can choose to fulfill. These raise the group's morale and even bonds levels, which are important in combat. Then, if you combine that with the easier chose route if you chose that beforehand, you have less demands for heals and recoup, which means that you can spend a lot more action points elsewhere for either buffs, handling more requests, upgrades, and even time to gather more materials. There's a level of flexibility that shines throughout most of the game, and it eases the burdens you might have had coming in. While there aren't fully fledged social links like in other popular games, events here raise character synergy with each other, especially if you team them up together in combat, which could allow you to make use of huge and powerful link attacks. This is a good point to actually get into combat, which is traditional in turn-based nature, but in a very complex way. Depending on who's behind the wheel or who's active at the moment, the type of attacks change for each one of the characters, as each has their own strategy in mind. So first finding your favorite ones and then finding which ones work given to the specific encounter adds strategy to the mix. Then there's the attacks themselves, varying from launchers, cannons, and of course plenty of guns. It's not quite a rock paper scissors approach, but everything has a weakness to something, so as long as you find it, you'll all be set. Thankfully, this is where the time bar comes in handy. It will display not only when it's your turn to attack and what actions that the enemies will also use, but they're also color coded as to what to expect. This lets you focus on a proper set of weaknesses that can even cause enemies to attacks to be delayed. Statuses also boost your chance to victory, so it's best to make use of them, especially against bosses. Lastly, there are things like accuracy among other minor parameters to round out what you'll mainly focus on during the moment-to-moment combat set of actions. Even the passives that each one of your active character provides could help turn the tide in your favor. It's certainly a combat system that has more than enough things to keep your eyes on, and often is kept fresh with newer twists being introduced as you play. I spent most of my time playing on the Nintendo Switch Lite, and performance was great, so I'd like to thank CyberConnect for the gameplay provided, but also the review code. Visually, the game is charming and the art is gorgeous. There were more than a few times where the ambience carried a specific scene, as you begin to understand where the story is actually heading. Fuga, Melodies of Steel is a charming and cutesy game that's not shy about touching on some of the aspects of storytelling, but sadly don't quite hit all the time. Thankfully, to make up for it, the freedom of choice in both actions and paths leave players in a good position to invest as much or as little as possible. Nintendo's Fury gives Fuga, Melodies of Steel on Switch an 8 out of 10. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya!